Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in today. I want you to imagine a situation you've probably found yourself in recently. You know the one. Everyone around you is just talking faster. They're firing off opinions, making these split-second judgments, and jumping from one topic to the next without skipping a beat. And you? Well, you pause. You think. You actually choose your words carefully. Today, we're unpacking some fascinating source material that explores a concept called the wisdom of the slow. And we're looking specifically at intelligence beyond 50. It's a really deep dive into why that careful pacing of yours, it isn't a flaw at all, it's actually a feature. Have you ever just sat there in a quiet, maybe somewhat vulnerable moment, feeling the sheer pace of the world rushing right past you, and asked yourself, why do I always hesitate? Have you ever wondered if there's literally something wrong with you just because you don't have an immediate, snappy comeback ready to go? Honestly, it's a deeply relatable pain. You might even feel a little bit of self-doubt creeping in, kind of questioning your own sharpness. The source material we're looking at describes this exact scenario so perfectly. Picture this. You're sitting in a room full of people, confident voices, incredibly fast opinions. Everyone around you just seems so incredibly certain. And you're just sitting there, listening. You're weighing things out. You're probably considering 3 different sides to the exact same argument. But by the time you've gathered your thoughts and finally open your mouth, the conversation has already moved on to like 3 new topics. So you just stay quiet. Someone louder, someone faster, and let's be honest, often someone much shallower ends up getting the credit. And you go home feeling totally left behind. But here is a massive paradigm shift from cognitive psychology. Researchers who study actual real-world wisdom keep finding the exact same thing. The people who think the slowest often understand the most. That quiet pause you've been beating yourself up over, the theory suggests it isn't hesitation, and it definitely isn't weakness. It is actually one of the absolute rarest cognitive abilities a human being can develop. You aren't slow, you've just learned how incredibly easy it is to be wrong. So basically, we're looking at 2 fundamentally different kinds of intelligence here. The kind the world aggressively rewards in your 20s relies heavily on speed, confidence, and just sheer volume. But then, there's the intelligence of the 50s. This is the kind that quietly builds up over decades. It relies on pausing, reevaluating, and humility. The world often makes the mistake of failing to celebrate this quiet wisdom, but make no mistake about it, society completely depends on it. Our source actually outlines 5 specific signs of this deep intelligence. Let's look at sign number 1. You pause before you speak. When someone asks you a question and you don't just rush to answer, people might completely misread you. They rush to fill the silence because they're uncomfortable, assuming you're just unsure. But internally, you are actively running a highly sophisticated filter. You're asking yourself, is this true? Is this actually fair? Am I missing something here? Behavioral science actually has a formal term for this active internal filter: cognitive inhibition. It's the ability to suppress the very first answer that pops into your mind. And why does this matter so much? Because that very first answer is usually just a reflex. It's habit, it's bias, it's just what you've always believed. By overriding that reflex, you are doing something that most people's brains are simply not trained to do. You're arriving at something much closer to the actual truth. All right, moving right along to sign number 2. You change your mind.
Think about the last time you honestly re-evaluated a stance. I don't mean because someone pressured you or because you just wanted to fit in with the crowd. I mean because you encountered new evidence, really thought about it, and honestly admitted, you know what, I was wrong about that. That is a truly rare trait to find in the wild, and understanding why it's so rare is crucial. Psychologists call our natural resistance belief perseverance. See, once an opinion is formed, the human brain fights tooth and nail to protect it. It's basically a biological survival mechanism from thousands of years ago, back when second-guessing yourself could literally get you killed. But in today's really complex world, that ancient instinct just makes people rigid and super easy to manipulate. So when you genuinely change your mind, you are cognitively overriding a deep, ancient biological program. That is definitely not a weakness, it's an extraordinary feat.
Which brings us to sign number 3. You are comfortable saying, I don't know.
Those 3 simple words are incredibly hard for most people to say out loud, mainly because our modern world intensely punishes uncertainty. If you don't have an immediate answer, someone else is going to confidently step in and fill the void, even if their answer is completely wrong. Empty confidence so often wins the room, so people just fake it. The feeling of not knowing is just unbearable for them. But you've lived long enough to watch incredibly bad decisions unfold just because someone was too proud to admit they didn't know. As the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, literally one of history's greatest minds, famously stated, "I know that I know nothing." Admitting you don't know isn't the end of a conversation, it's the start of an honest one. It elevates your precision and shows a comfort with reality that empty confidence can absolutely never match.
And here is sign 4. You feel uncomfortable with oversimplified answers.
You know that feeling when someone gives a neat, perfectly clean, 10-second explanation to a highly complex problem? Everyone else around the table is eagerly nodding along, perfectly satisfied. But you feel this quiet unease. You sit there troubled, knowing full well that it simply cannot be that tidy. What you're experiencing there isn't cynicism and it's not negativity. It is a highly sophisticated cognitive alarm system called tolerance for ambiguity. Research consistently shows that higher-order thinkers possess way more of this. It actively resists the pressure to close the loop too quickly. It protects you from the illusion of understanding. So while the fast-paced world demands an immediate resolution, your intelligence protects you by living right inside that uncertainty until a truly honest answer finally emerges.
And that brings us to the 5th and final, and honestly maybe the quietest trait. Sign 5. You think about what you might be missing.
When you make a decision, or when you're just listening to someone speak, there's this quiet internal whisper asking, what am I not seeing here? What's the other side to this? Most people never develop this voice at all, or they just learn to ignore it completely, because frankly, it slows you down, and it makes simple choices feel a lot harder. But psychologists have a name for this whisper: metacognition. It is the ability to observe and think about your own thinking. By most scientific measures, this is considered the absolute highest form of human intelligence. Yes, for sure it slows you down, but it's the exact reason why your judgments are fundamentally sound and why your relationships have actual enduring depth.
Now here's the massive twist in all of this analysis. In a room full of 25-year-olds competing for attention, every single trait we just covered, the pausing, the changing your mind, saying I don't know, they all look like slowness. They look like weakness, but they aren't. They are the completely irreplaceable products of lived experience, of loss, of recovery, of watching really confident people be spectacularly wrong, and of being wrong yourself and actually surviving it. The fast world isn't thinking faster. It is merely reacting faster.
Think about it like this. A reflex is fast, sure, but it can get you killed. Wisdom is slow, but it gets you home. You have spent decades building a protective cognitive architecture that most people will simply never develop, entirely because they are never willing to be wrong long enough to get there. The world is just in a huge hurry, but the destination doesn't change just because you happen to be running. So your big takeaway here is actually incredibly empowering. The very next time you pause before you speak, do not apologize for it. Don't shrink away from changing your mind. Speak your uncertainty clearly and proudly, because these are not the signs of a mind that has slowed down. These are the signs of a mind that has finally arrived. You possess a deep, profound intelligence that only time and experience can build. So I want to leave you with a provocative thought and a question to really chew on. Which of these 5 signs felt most like you? Was it the pause? The tolerance for ambiguity? I really hope this explainer has given you some validation and the vocabulary to fully understand your own cognitive strengths. Don't forget to share your own lived experiences down in the comments and keep leaning into the wisdom of the slow. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today.